everybody. Welcome to this month's learning series. I am Leslie Burkus, the Executive Director of the Urban and Community Forestry Society, and we're so happy to have you here today. We've got a great topic all focused on how you can better use the data coming from your tree inventory, the data you're collecting in your city to make more informed decisions about your urban forest. And maybe a seemingly nerdy tree conversation, but that is just the type of conversations we like to have here because we want to make sure that you can do your job to the best of your ability. So before we get started, I'm going to just do a quick introduction, then I'm going to kick it over to Joe. And so to do that, I'm going to click over here and first thank our exclusive learning series partner, Bartlett Tree Experts. We share the goal with Bartlett of raising the bar on urban forestry and arboriculture research across the country. And we thank Bartlett for their support of this learning series. And we thank all of our sponsors and our members. If you are a member, we really appreciate you and the giving that you give back to this society. Being part of an association is something really powerful because we connect with those around us who are doing that similar work. They know and understand you, and there's really no better feeling in the world than being with the people who know and understand you. And this is why we want you to be part of this society. So if you're not a member, we really hope that you'll join us. It's a great time to be here, a lot of great opportunity, and I'm going to be going through a few of those here in a second. So if you've been thinking about joining, hope that you will do so soon. Again, we're doing a quick introduction here, and then I'm going to kick it over to Joe Hansen, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different this time. It'll be kind of a multimedia learning series webinar. Joe has an awesome video that he recorded on site in Wilmette, right, Joe? I thought I had the city wrong for a second. Or Park Ridge. Tell
me so this video is from Park Ridge, but I currently am in Wilmette.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. This is why I was like, oh no, I had the city wrong. But it's awesome on the ground showing how Joe went around the city and he uses his tree canopy inventory data to make informed decisions. Like those daily operational decisions, how you might use it for budgeting and being really transparent with the decisions you're making from a monetary perspective, and also how you're using that for long-term decision making. So I'll let him go through all of that, but it's going to be a great opportunity to see it in action. We'll pause the video. Joe will share a little bit. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll play it again. We'll have time for Q&A with Joe as our moderator and myself helping make sure we're monitoring questions. And at the very end, we will have a CEU form that we'll drop in the chat. So as we get started here, please put your name and where you're from in the chat. It was so great to see where everybody is coming in from. We love seeing people coming in from across the globe. So let us know where you're joining us from. This webinar is being recorded and we will be sharing with you afterwards. Again, the CEU form will be dropped in the chat at the end of this webinar, and we will submit CEUs on your behalf. And this is approved for one ISA CEU. And then as we go, feel free to use the chat feature or the Q&A button there at the top of your screen to drop in questions. I'll be monitoring that and make sure to ask Joe questions as we go along. And if you're new here, I just want to share a little bit more about UCFS, the Urban and Community Forestry Society. Our job is to build the confidence, competence, and camaraderie of all professionals who manage trees and forests to create and sustain more livable communities. And what we really mean by that is that we are the professional membership home for the people who make or support a daily tree care decision. Like Joe and so many on this call, you decide who, what, where, when, why, or how a tree goes in the ground, comes out of the ground, contractor works on the tree. This is important work to make sure that our cities are as green as they can be, the most flourishing they can be. And we need people like you who are managing those trees. And we want to be there to help bring you together, to ask questions of one another, provide education like we're doing here, and overall make you feel you're most confident in the decisions you make every day. Just a few things that we have coming up so that you can take advantage of it right away. So if you have been thinking about becoming an ISA certified urban forest professional, this was formerly municipal specialist, but is now certified urban forest professional, we're going to be hosting study groups that will start on May 15th. It's a 5-part series, $65 for members, $100 for non-members, and would love for you to join us on this study group so you can feel confident and hopefully pass that exam with flying colors. A members only opportunity is our mentoring program. If you felt like you sure could use somebody to help bounce some ideas off of, maybe there's a particular project you're having trouble with, or just someone to commiserate with, we have our mentorship programming. That's applications are due on the 15th for members, and we help match you with somebody that we really think is going to help partner really well with your issue that you might be facing, and we work with you to make sure it's a good match. And then our conference is coming up November 16th to 17th, 2026. And our call for proposals is open, and that is due on May 29th. So if you've got a great challenge or triumph or something you want to share with your friends from across the country and globe, please submit your conference proposal, and hopefully we'll see you share that at our conference in St. Louis. And with that, I'm going to wrap up here and just thank our members once again. We so appreciate you. You are who make all of this possible. We are here for you every single day. And if you're not a member, I hope that you'll join us really soon. And with that, Joe, I'm going to stop sharing and kick it right over to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Leslie. So a little bit of quick background regarding this presentation. So Leslie and Carla asked if I would be interested in doing a presentation regarding this topic. And I said, yeah, sure. I have a presentation like this that I've done many times. And then I thought, I actually have this video that I had done during COVID. So probably a lot of you had conferences that year that had switched over to virtual, and we in Illinois did too. So our Illinois Arbor Association conference went virtual, and I was already set to present that year. So instead of doing the typical for the time, speaking over a slideshow recording, I was like, I'm going to do something a little more fun and actually go around town and kind of edit this video. So this was actually all done and edited on an iPhone. And it turned out pretty well, because it actually, I think in this kind of atmosphere for a webinar, it's going to be more interesting. Instead of, again, just looking at a slideshow and listening to me talk, you'll be able to watch me talk on a recorded format. And then I'm going to stop throughout and reiterate a couple points and have opportunities for questions. And then, of course, at the end, we can go over some questions as well. And as we said earlier, this was recorded back when I worked for the city of Park Ridge in Illinois. And I'm now currently in the village of Wilmette, Illinois. But all of the information is still very relevant. And in fact, we're still using the same software in Wilmette. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get the video started. And we'll do a pause in a couple minutes here and talk again. So thank you guys so much. Hey guys, my name is Joe Hansen. I'm the Urban Forester for the City of Park Ridge. Today I'm here to talk to you about tree inventory software. But don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm here to talk to you about how tree inventory software is more than data points on a map telling us a tree species, size, and maybe some work history. What tree inventory is for us is a whole slew of multiple levels of data points that we can use and sort of manipulate to manage our urban forest the way that we see fit. Here in the city of Park Ridge, we're managing about 22,000 parkway trees. We have about 38,000 residents. Over the course of the period of a year, we'll typically take in about 800 resident requests for inspections of their parkway tree. Maybe they're worried that the tree's not looking good. Maybe it just has tar spot. Maybe it's got some dead branches that they're concerned about. Whichever way, we need a way to manage those requests, and we need to tie all of those requests somehow to specific addresses, as well as any work that's going to get done. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about the day-to-day process of how we take in all of this different data, not only with the trees themselves or the work that we do, but also with all of the requests that we get, permit inspections, anything related to forestry in any way whatsoever. And we're going to talk about how all of that also ties in with our budget and how we can track all of our costs at any moment, at any time, anywhere, on pretty much any different device, and how that has helped us efficiently manage our workflow in the forestry division in the city of Park Ridge. So hopefully by the end of this, you can at least get a couple different ideas of how flexible the software can be. And even if you don't have a tree inventory, maybe you'll just get an idea of another process that you want to change in your city. Thank you. before we even get started, it's really important that we understand what we're all looking at. What I'm talking about are the trees and the tree sites. I need to be able to convey to our contractors and other public works staff what specific tree I'm talking about. So what I mean is, in instances such as this, we're on a corner lot and we have trees on both sides of the street. And I need to be able to tell somebody a specific tree site. So the way that Tree Keeper handles this is there are front sites, there are side away sites, there are rear sites, and there are side to sites. And what that means is everything is handled in direction of traffic. So if you're coming this way, this would be side to, and then this would be a front. Front meaning the front of the address, side away meaning you're driving away from the address, rear, you're behind the address, side to, you're driving towards the address. That way, we all understand and are on the same page about the specific sites that we're talking about, whether you have your tablet with you or not.
So it's nice when, during our weekly removals, when we go in to check emails from Forestry, we have a list of tree species, locations that they want taken down. So when the guys show up to the addresses for the removals, we have everything on one sheet. It's clean, it's easy, and it's organized. Another nice thing that's able to keep things organized between grounds and forestry is on the weekend, if we have a call out, the guys get to the location for, let's just say, an F2 silver maple. They take care of the work. We're able to email Forestry so they can update their notes, as well as we can convey to them that they need to go out and take a look at the tree to see if there's any other work that needs to be completed.
So I'm going to pause right there and just briefly talk about that. So that grounds supervisor there was explaining the process of receiving work orders from us. Now, most of these softwares are set up in a way that you can add users to them, and the users have different abilities or edit abilities. So like if you're a little bit more advanced user, you would actually set up your crew as a user in the software, and they would be able to just open up the software to look at what work is assigned to them, or they would be able to enter their own work. So in his example, his last example, where he explained the process of coming in over the weekend for some storm damage and then sending us an email to let us know, if he was utilizing the software to its fullest capabilities, he would actually be able to just assign that work directly to us or other staff to go out and look at it. So it's kind of a hybrid model that we were running there, but again, depending on the user level, there's a lot of different flexible options. So I'm going to hit play again and move further into exactly what those processes look like for assigning and organizing work.
Hello. I'm going to pretend that this 76-inch flat screen is the iPad and demonstrate to you exactly how we use this throughout the day. So this is the City of Park Ridge. In case you're not familiar with it, I'm sure most of you are. But this is basically what it looks like when you first log in every day. This pin is showing us where we're located, which is handy sometimes for the navigation. So once I get in the truck and I start rolling to take care of my inspections for the day, I run a quick search on the software, and I'm able to see on the map all the different points of where I need to go through the day. Now what's great about this is I can visually see what my workload is, and it also helps me navigate throughout the city. I know the city, I don't need GPS to tell me how to get there. It just helps me more efficiently travel so I can take care of everything quicker. Welcome to my office. Well, it's my second office. This sweet 2008 Ford Ranger takes me all around town, and the beauty of it is I'm able to do everything that I can do in my real office back at City Hall right here on this iPad. Luckily, the city was nice enough to purchase this mount for me, and it has really streamlined how we used to do things, which was a resident would make a request, we would print out a piece of paper and go out and conduct the inspection. We would handwrite our notes onto that piece of paper, and we would go back to our administrative assistants, who would then input all of our notes into the system. Well, luckily technology has gotten a lot better, and now we're able to utilize all of our data and make changes and edits in real time right here in the field on an iPad. So some of the basic data that you probably are familiar with is looking at sites like this. Each one of these dots next to the streets actually represents a parkway tree. Each one of these sites over the houses represents an actual address, and this is where we keep all of our work records. We'll get into that in a second. But for basic tree data, let's pick this one for example. It tells us the address and what the site is. We'll talk about the sites too. But we have a 2-inch Dawn redwood with 1 trunk, which is important to know if you want to know how many trunks a tree has. I'll edit that out. But this shows basic data, planting date, number of trunks, size, primary maintenance if you need to enter anything like that. And then over here is where we would enter the work orders. So we can see at one time what used to be here in 2014, we removed a 17-inch bald cypress. So we got back in basically the same type of species. So we do separate tree and stump work orders. And we'll walk through exactly how we do that step by step. All right, so the most common example that we use is for every day is a resident calls up and makes a request. And we take some basic information, name, address, telephone number, reason for the call. We create the work order. All work requests are put under the private address site. And the reason we do that is we don't know exactly what we're looking at until we get out there. So we can't put inspection requests on trees because some of these sites will have obviously multiple trees. And then after that's created, we can search for it under the quick filter. In the field, we'll conduct our search. We'll enter any notes after the inspection and then create work requests for those specific trees. So after we receive a call from a resident requesting an inspection, we'll put the inspection request underneath the private site. So in this case, I'll use our city hall as an example. We're going to select the site and we're going to go up here and select the work that we need. So I've already used this as an example before on 2/20/2020, but I'll do another one. We're going to click add work. And this has a nice load last work record if we're doing multiples of the same. But for this instance, we're going to do project. And this is where we would set up pre-set up projects. We're going to do internal because I'm going to be doing the inspection. We're going to go work type. We're going to pick call inspection. We can set a priority level. I just set everything to medium by default. Crew, you can assign any kind of crew to it. I'm going to assign myself. And then you can enter comments. Comments such as resident believes tree is bad tree. And you can use spell check too if you want. And then you submit it. And then from there, so once we get into the truck to go run our inspections for the day, we can run a search, okay? But instead of running a number of different search parameters to capture what we want, we have quick filters set up. So in this case, I have a quick filter set up that'll capture all of my inspections and permits. Permits meaning tree removal permit applications. We do final inspections from here, and then all the call inspections from resident requests. So you can see we have 4 loaded already. We'll use this as an example. If you click on that site now, we'll click on that little eyeball again, look at the work that we have. We can see this is work requested, okay? So this tells us everything that we need to look at. Resident believes tree is bad. So say we go out there and we do the inspection and then we decide that we want to remove the tree, we can enter in all of that data as well. And we're going to do that live in the field by completing an edit. And you can click complete and then post work comments. If we were going to remove the tree, we would put tree tagged, or actually we'd put like F1 tree, F1 maple tagged for removal. LDC, that's our shorthand for left door card. Usually I don't have errors such as this in my forms. Submit. Now the work shows is complete and we're ready to move on to the next one. So what I do is I keep the data layer turned off for our street trees. And when I need to remove a tree, I'll zoom in on it. I'll zoom in on it where I need to be. And let's say we want to remove this bald cypress over here. We'll walk through that. Right here, bald cypress is side 2-9. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to enter work on this specific tree. The work is not entered into the private side. It's added to that tree specifically. So we have a 13-inch tree. So we have our project set up. We're going to do FY21 tree removal and stump. Work type is going to be remove tree. Scroll down and down and down. You can type it, but I'm not close to my keyboard right now. Set the priority level to medium. Work crew, we're going to pick our contractor who's Landscape Concepts. This will be a great plug for them. Now cost, this is important. So the cost we can enter, and we have spreadsheets are already pre-made up with our costs. You want to take a look at that and pause it, and then you can show your contractor how the prices they're giving you sucks. And I'll enter the price. So we had a 13-inch tree, which is going to cost us $165.75. And then in the comments down here, we're going to type remove 13-inch side 2/8. What was this? Bald cypress. We're going to put a tag number. I'll just make up a tag number. We have unique tags so that contractors remove the correct tree. And then we're going to put RF1, and that's going to be used for our reforestation purposes later, and that stands for room for one. So that tells us that we have room for another tree later. Then we're going to hit submit. Okay, now that we've decided we have a bunch of trees we need to send to our...
Okay, so just to reiterate what happened there is a resident called because they were concerned about a tree. This is an example. The resident called because they're concerned about a tree. So instead of putting an inspection request on a specific tree that they may be concerned about, we put all of the inspection requests on just associate it with the address. And then once we go out to the address, we would obviously inspect all of the trees associated with that address. And then if there is an actionable item to take place after that, which in this case there was a tree removal, then we create a separate worker record for a tree removal, and then we enter what that's going to cost us, and that's going to be used for budgeting purposes later. The same would be true if we were doing a off-cycle pruning or something like that, or if we're doing nothing, we would just put in the notes, tree appears fine, does not meet specifications for off-cycle pruning or something to that effect. But the important thing is we're delineating inspections and work for between the trees and the addresses. Does anyone have any questions about that, or is there any questions in the chat yet, Leslie?
No questions in the chat yet.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit play.
Contractor for removal, we have quick filters set up for trees that we have requested for removals. So we'll click on removals requested, and then that's going to pop up all the trees that we have that we need to send to our contractor. So what we'll do is we can global edit everything at once, but I'll just go through this one tree as an example. We'll go into it, and when we send it to them, we're going to edit it. So before we talked about briefly how we have requested and completed. So in the middle is scheduled. So when we send something to the contractor, we're going to change it to scheduled, and then we're going to submit it and then change it to send it off to the contractor. And again, that's all done. We global edit everything, and the way that we can do that is we can pull everything up, all the sites here. We can click on work. It tells us the address, the request date, work comments, etc., and then we can bump that out as an Excel sheet, and then we send the spreadsheet directly to the contractor. We're going to add work the same way. We're going to go with our project. FY21 is going to be T&M pruning. Then we're going to pick prune from here. Priority, I'm going to set that to high because this is an emergency situation. Now, instead of leaving this set as requested, we're going to leave it as scheduled because I've called the contractor or I've already sent them a text message. So when they send us an invoice, we're going to see that it's already requested. Where you can't find landscape concepts, there we go. The cost, I can't enter the cost because I'm not going to know what the cost is until the invoice is sent. But for comments, we would put something like remove broken hanger, just something generic, whatever. Again, let's get into the spell check thing. It should just do it automatically. It should know me by now. So then now this work is scheduled for the contractor. And they might be confused if we have two of them here, but don't worry, we're going to delete this before this video is over. So now we've received an invoice from the contractor who's completed the work. So we need to go check the work to make sure it was done correctly or at all so we can get them paid. And the way that we do that is we go back into that work record that we had scheduled for the removed tree. We're going to edit it right away to complete. And in the post-work comments, we're going to put an I. The I stands for inspect. And then Brandon Nazer, the city forester, is going to go out and do QA on that. So what he does is when he gets into his truck, he's going to run a search with another quick filter that we have set up that is called Landscape Concepts Q&A. And basically everything, these are all the sites that we've been billed for, and we just need to check to make sure we've gotten it's done so we can get them paid. And Brandon's going to go in and he's going to, if the work is done, he's going to go back into the completed work order again and edit it, and he's going to turn this I to a C. Now that quick filter that we ran this search for is searching for completed work request for a specific date time frame, but that's searching specifically for that I under the post-work comments. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I was too busy trying to determine where our right-of-way began and ended on this side of the street. But luckily with our inventory, we have parcel data loaded in already. So when I had to come out to determine if this tree was located on private property or within our right-of-way, I was able to just pull it up right away in the inventory and determine the size of the right-of-way, measure everything out, and I was also able to measure up this tree and put in a work order immediately. There's a number of different layers that we can use in here. One of the ones that I find most useful is parcels, and this is all information that is pulled from the county website, and we have in our internal GIS from the consortium as well. But it shows us all the parcel lines. It helps us determine the right-of-way size, and it also shows us the address. Another really useful feature when you're trying to figure that out is you can change to the satellite view. Whoops, there we go, Google satellite view, so we can actually get a better idea of exactly what it is that we're looking at. And when that has been useful for me is underground utilities. So purple is our combined stormwater sewer, blue is going to be our water main, and if you click on it, it pulls up a whole slew of nerd information. The most useful, I guess, would be the diameter size. I myself like working from the street view. It's a little less clutter, a little less things to look at, and since I like to use it for navigation purposes, that's great too. Let's zoom out, 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 and if you're a noob and you don't know what you're doing, you can also look at your municipal limits. So that's Park Ridge. Welcome. In addition to all the tree data that we have stored in the tree inventory, we've also uploaded all of our underground utility data. So we know where our sewer mains are and our water mains are, in addition to some of the laterals and the B-boxes. In this case, we did an entire water main project down this entire stretch of street. So before anything even happens, I work with the engineers to look for any potential impacts and any kind of mitigation that we can use to avoid those impacts. In this case, there wasn't much we can do because we thought that the water main was here. It turned out it was a little bit further over, closer to the curb, so we had to rip out about 900 feet of curb and gutter. But we're still able to minimize impacts to our parkway trees as much as possible. So one of the great things for us is we're able to track our dollar amounts of our budget fairly accurately. And the way that we do that is we have all of these projects already pre-set up in here. So let's open this up a little more and we'll look at FY21 tree removal and stump, okay? So we have requested, scheduled, and completed. And we kind of talked a little bit about how the requested works and the completed works for the work orders when it goes out to the contractors. So what this is showing us is we have $3,600 of tree and stump removal that's requested. That's work we haven't sent to our contractor yet. We have about $55,000 scheduled. That's work that we've sent to our contractor and they probably completed and just haven't invoiced us for it yet. And then we have about $110,000 completed out of a total budget of $250,000. And then it also will give us an estimated remaining budget, which we have about $85,000 left. So that's nice that we're able to track everything ongoing. And we're able to do that because we have the inch diameter price breakdown of our removal pricing from the contractor. However, for T&M pruning, it's a little bit different because we don't know what it's going to cost. We know what the hourly rate is, but we're not going to know what the cost is until it comes in at the end. But we're still able to track about what we have spent and what we had left. So we started with 110,000, and now we have about 32,000 remaining. And then the last one is our cycle prune, which obviously we have nothing requested, scheduled, or completed. But we do track that as those invoices come in with a total budget of $135,000.
Okay, so I want to talk about that for a second. Let me see if I can get this back just a little bit. Okay, so what's really good about this is, I mean, obviously, you know, your municipality or agency is already using some sort of budgeting software. So you're able to go in there and see, you know, what you have spent. But what it likely doesn't do is give you a number of what is floating out there, what a prediction would be. And there's likely a way for you to set it up to do that, but it would include, you know, a bunch of different data entry. So since we're already adding work and tracking all of the work in this software, it's nice to be able to put the known dollar amounts in there. So then we have a good idea of, you know, not only what we've spent, but what we've requested to spend essentially. So like what we've already scheduled with the contractor, and then an idea of what we plan to give to the contractor already, but haven't. So those calculations kind of give you a good idea of what's going on, especially towards the end of the year when either your budget's getting a little tight or maybe it looks like you're going to be a little under budget and looking for different opportunities to creatively, you know, spend that money down. Now, where it does lack is with that T&M work. So T&M, for those not familiar, everyone probably different parts of the country are using different terminology, but T&M would be time and materials. So that's a part of a contract that's set up for like storm work or emergency work. So work that we're not, you know, predicting the same way we would for like the cycle prune or block pruning, for example. So does anyone have any questions about that?
I don't see any questions yet, Joe.
Great, thank you.
About 32,000 remaining. And then the last one is our cycle prune, which obviously we have nothing requested, scheduled, or completed. But we do track that as those invoices come in with a total budget of $135,000. So in this case, we're going to click on this address. And we're going to see what kind of work we've had here. In this case, we have a frequent flyer who loves to call us because she really cares about her trees, which is great. As an example, back in June of 2018, she called and claimed that a certified arborist told her her tree needed to be pruned. We went out and took a look. Small miscellaneous deadwood does not meet spec for removal, so no action was taken at that time. And then earlier this year, she called us again and requested to inspect elm tree mid-block on Albion, previously treated for Dutch elm. Branches were down. She will leave them there so you can see. We determined that the elm appeared in fair condition, small miscellaneous deadwood to be pruned out on the cycle prune. The limb down was 2-inch in diameter, an LDC left door card. But this is great that we have this kind of data, because when a resident calls and they say, I've lived here for 30 years and I've never called once, we can see that they call all the time. Or when a resident calls and said, I've called and complained 2 times and there's no action, we can click on the site and see that they never called at all. But whichever way, we collect lots and lots of data, which is super helpful for myself or Brandon, the city forester, if he looks at it later. Or if both of us leave, the people who come and work in our shoes after this are going to have a better understanding of what's been going on at any particular site for any number of years.
Okay, a couple comments here. The first thing is, yeah, we both left, so we're both not with, well, he's still in Park Ridge, Brandon, but he's not the forester anymore. And I no longer work there, so people are able to look at all these old notes that we have left. But I want to talk a little about post-work comments. So I think the industry can be a little bit divided on like what is too much data or what is too little data. and what that looks like liability wise. So first I'll tell you, obviously I'm not an attorney, so I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing in your municipality or agency. But what I will say is I like to err on the side of caution and not give too much detailed information in post-work comments. So like if a resident is requesting to remove a parkway tree for whatever reason, and we go out there and look at it and determine that the tree shouldn't be removed because it's a healthy tree, we're not going to put like a detailed track report that we did of that specific tree or request in the work comments in our instance. So what we're going to do is we would typically just put tree does not meet our specifications for removal, or tree does not meet specifications for off-cycle pruning. And we'll just leave some notes such as this. In this example, elm appears in fair condition, small miscellaneous deadwood to be pruned on the next winter's cycle. So this is basically just telling us it's more than meeting your duty of care in the sense that a resident is making a request of a concern they have, you're going out and inspecting it as, an ISA certified arborist, and in our case, also track qualified. So we're performing and being responsive to inspections there. We're collecting the data that the inspection actually took place. So there's a record of it happening. And then also we're doing a cycle prune, which through that process, those crews are identifying other potential causes of concern up in the canopy of the tree while they're pruning that they could alert us to for further investigation if need be. And then also, I can't recall if it's discussed in this video, we're also performing an inventory update for that one particular zone of the block prune every year. So we're way above the bar of meeting duty of care, but we're not going to call out every single condition of concern that we may see in the tree. We're just going to kind of keep it vague, but still create the record that we were there and that there was no additional work or removal required for a specific tree. We still looking good, Leslie?
There are a couple questions, but I think we can save them till the end.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to hit play again.
So here's an example of another quick filter. This one is a cycle prune. This was a screen grab taken from last year's cycle prune program. But basically this was the entire zone that we cycle pruned. It was about 32 or 3,300 trees. What these yellow dots represent are trees that we have not been invoiced for. So when the invoices come in, we mark them out as completed. Now obviously Brandon and I are out on these streets going up and down when they're pruning, making sure that they're doing everything properly and not screwing anything up. But it's also nice to be able to visually see what they have done and what they haven't done. So in this case, they started on the west side and worked their way east. So we can visually see and run reports at what's done and what's not instead of just the anecdotal data.
It's easier to work in Park Ridge because the information that they provide us is easier to understand, and our crews, they don't have to measure every single tree, so it save us time.
Sites are continually updated as trees are removed. We're never just leaving. So our original inventory began in 2012. That took a number of years to complete over the winter. Sites are continually updated as trees are removed. We're never just leaving the data dry. Each winter, I go through and add every single new planting that we've done. Beginning in 2018, we began doing updates for zones. And what we do is, prior to a zone that we're doing for the cycle prune, we go through, we obviously go out to bid, and they go through that zone and re-inventory that whole section of town. And what that does is give us accurate budget forecasting for the cycle prune. Our cycle prune prices are based on diameter DBH brackets. So if we have data that's 6 years old, some of those trees have moved up in bracket size or they've been removed, etc. But what this does is gives us a pretty much dead-on exact cost of what our cycle prune is going to cost every single year. At the same time, we're continually updating our inventory
for a pretty low price. We're pretty much below $10,000 every year to do about 3,000 trees plus whatever vacant sites have come up, and just constantly refreshing the data. One of the other useful things I found with this software is when dealing with storm response. So as I'm texting or calling our contractor to hit all these high priority items, I'm entering them into the system immediately afterwards, and I'm keeping track of it that way. Instead of coming back into the office the next day or 2 days later with a litany of notes handwritten on paper, and I'm trying to keep track of what actually happened. I'm entering everything in real time and getting accurate data, and oftentimes costs as well. One of the other great things about the flexibility of software such as this is we're able to use it however we want to. So in this case, in November of 2018, we had a overnight rain that turned to a heavy snow before we had leaf drop, and it generated a lot of damage across the city. But what we were able to do to keep up with the work while we were out running around was set up a new work type to track all incidents related to the storm. And we just called the work type, instead of call inspection like we normally would, we called it the date of the storm, whatever the date of the storm was. I think it was like 11/26/2018 or something. But what we're able to do is dump all these requests. We had 166 resident requests generated in under 24 hours that we had to go look at. So that was partial tree failures, entire tree failures, and just a lot of hangers and broken limbs. But we were able to easily visually see what we had to do throughout that entire response, and we were able to easily and quickly quantify the response too. Because again, we're adding costs associated with the removals at least right away, so we're able to see what it costs. And then the other thing too is all the additional work that it generated for T&M, we're able to plug all those numbers. And in this storm, we were able to determine the storm cost us about $40,000 in time and material cleanup and additional chipping. October 26th, and it's already snowing. We're here to meet Tony Dottie, the IAA Municipal Director, and the Niles Street Superintendent to talk about tree inventory software all the way up at the top of the Leaning Tower.
So the Village of Niles uses it's called ViewWorks, and that's how we manage our work orders and our service requests. All the data that our secretaries receive from residents via phone call, emails, that all gets put in and logged daily. We've been using that since about 2011, and so far we have like well over 30,000 service requests that have come in from Niles residents. We use that to also monitor our assets, trees, water mains, fire hydrants, signs, everything. Our village staff also uses ArcGIS, and we also have a collector app that our village forester and the forestry division, our streets department all uses. They use it on tablets and smartphones. When they're out in the field, they're able to update the tree inventory. They're able to upload photos very quickly, and all of that basically transfers over into our ViewWorks and our Atlas software. They use this all the time. Our tree trimmers also use this when they're updating our, the trees that have been trimmed.
Well, thanks for sticking around and listening to my presentation. I hope you learned something. I learned that I bit off a lot more than I can chew putting through all these different clips. I just hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. I'm always happy to share any experience that I have with you. But for now, I'm going to head inside before this rain gets us. See ya. Okay, so that was the video. I hope it was an enjoyable experience in your lives. Leslie, do you have some questions that I can answer?
First of all, Joe, you're cracking me up over here. You're like a comedian in that video. Um,
Thanks.
I have a couple of questions, and as we get going here, please put some questions in the chat or use the Q&A feature. And as a reminder, we will be dropping the CEU form at the very top of the hour. Joe, I had a question about the overlay maps you had. You were showing the utilities mapping in Treekeeper, Davy Treekeeper. How was that an easy process to get all that mapping information into one area? In the city I live in, I recall that being a little bit of a challenge to work through the data and IT issues to get maps to overlay so they had everything in one spot. What did that look like?
So it was actually very easy. And when I came to Wilmette, we did the same thing here. But essentially, both Park Ridge and Wilmette are using a consultant for our GIS work. And we actually have a GIS consortium here with a lot of different municipalities. But basically all I had to do was ask for a shapefile for the specific layers that I was looking for. And I provided that shapefile to Davy Resource Group, and they just added it as an additional layer, just as they would any other layer into the software. Mm-hmm. So it was actually pretty straightforward. It's almost as easy as adding any other kind of layer, at least in my experience.
How about like in reverse? Are you seeing the utility folks, the public works people using your maps to monitor trees issues that they should be concerned about?
Not really. I wish it was more. There's an engineering review that takes place for some work, which I also review, but one of the engineers here does have access to our tree inventory software to be able to pull up that information if they need to. Now, the problem is we don't have it reversed, meaning our tree inventory software layer is not in our regular GIS software.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's probably fairly common. And as we think about trees as critical infrastructure, that pipe certainly is seen by the city as a piece of infrastructure. We think their trees are too. So it'd be nice to have the other departments see it the same way and be looking for the tree asset as they're making their decisions.
Yes.
Well, we had one question from Jim, just wondering about, from your perspective, a few people have responded about the level of sophistication that you're using in that mapping software, the data management software. Do you see this across other cities in the Chicagoland area, Illinois? What's been your experience with other cities and what they're using? Periods like sophistication level, maybe other products that they're using. What would you share?
It's kind of a mixed bag. I think at least in our region, I see, a lot of people are either using Treekeeper or Tree Plotter. And then there are several other, custom options that are available through ArcGIS, like Tony Dottie from Niles mentioned in that video. They use a collector app, which actually now that's actually super easy to make your own collector app if you get your own license, which I think is about $1,000 a year. They actually have pretty useful tools for building your own customizable collector app, which basically just drop in a pin, assigning what fields you want. That's really cool. As far as like the level of sophistication, it really depends on the municipality, what their budget is looking like, because if you really want it to be effective all the way down to the crew level basis, you really need everybody has to have an iPad so they're able to make those edits or notes directly into the field. And, unfortunately, budgets just don't always allow that depending on the size of the municipality. I know up in Racine, Wisconsin, just a little bit north of us, they are using it all the way down to that detail where everybody on the crew has an iPad and is entering information. So they're actually going out, and when they're, say, pruning a tree, they're entering that they completed that work right then versus having to bring it back and tell, the forester or their supervisor that the work was completed and then the supervisor having to enter it. So again, it's really a mixed bag. But what I would say is the integration with work order management can sometimes be difficult for some communities because those communities may already be set up with some other type of software like a 311 system that doesn't integrate directly with your tree inventory software. So what that means is in order to utilize both effectively, you're kind of copying and pasting data and doing additional work in order to get it into both systems. But either way, even if whether you are or aren't doing that, you still have to cross-reference kind of both systems to be able to manage all of that work and data. So it's kind of, again, a really mixed bag.
It's a perfect segue. Robert had a question. Do you receive resident calls through another internal city system such as 311 or those direct calls to your division? If using 311, do you find it as double dipping effort to input calls into a separate system?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, typically it would just be like a copy paste situation where it would be copied directly from the 311 system and pasted into the tree inventory if, a field visit is necessary. So if you're actually physically going out to look at something, then I would put it in the tree inventory as well. And yes, it is double dipping in extra work for certain, but every request into 311 doesn't necessarily need to go into your tree inventory management. For example, Tree Keeper and I believe Tree Plotter both have, and if they don't, you can add an option like a work type for a call. So some people will actually collect phone call data, like that they talk to somebody on the phone in their tree inventory software. I don't think that's necessary. I like to use the actual work order management for like field-based work. So we're going out to do an inspection, we're going out to do the actual work, or we're assigning work to somebody else. That's where I want those records to stay. And another reason why that's important, and I didn't really talk about it in that video, but this is a good opportunity to, is we also can use that while we're doing like plan review for building permits. So, maybe we're looking at plans for something and the address looks familiar. We might be able to pull up our tree inventory or the 311 system and look and see, that we were there for something else at some time, or there's sometimes relevant information there, maybe related to, private or public tree removals or vice versa, where we can kind of verify the data that the applicants are showing us versus the known data that we have or historical data.
Mm-hmm. Lee mentions that most tree inventory software systems these days have APIs that can integrate with things like 311, CityWorks, or Cartograph. So could be an option too to help ease up on some of that double work.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he mentioned that, because in Park Ridge, we had built a link like that to link our tree inventory software to our GIS software. So there was a live connection. So if we changed a tree to a stump in our tree inventory, it would show in the GIS software as a stump. But again, in Wilmette here, we don't have that connection built just quite yet.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple more questions coming in. I'm going to real quick do a little bit of a note here that I should have probably started off with. In UCFS, we've just launched our new accreditation program, which is the roadmap and standards for what we think people should be meeting to have world-class urban forestry programs. And standard 2.3 is all about data and systems management. And so much of this is why we wanted Joe to present, because we know how important it is to make sure that your data is up to date, you're using it in the best way possible, and you're being as efficient as possible, and making sure that work orders and your inventory all are syncing up. And so I wanted to call attention to that. Under 2.3, you can see what you should be achieving to make sure that your data management is up to snuff. And it could be a roadmap for people who might be still trying to get to that level of data management. Joe, Jim asked, how was it getting your contractors using and receiving data from the system? Did they like it, hate it, took a little experience? Does it limit the number of contractors you can use? So how'd you get them used to it? Has it limited anything?
They all loved it. I mean, because we're giving them just the bare bones basic information. So the biggest learning curve, I think, for them would have been learning what the tree sites are. So at the very beginning of the video, I talked about, the front sites, side away, rear, and side two. Every municipality or agency has different terminology for that, how it's defined in their inventory or their SOPs or their management plans. So I think that's the biggest learning curve, even outside of what data you're providing them, is them, because they may be working with 15 or 20 different municipalities like around us some of the bigger companies, that's what they are. So their crews have to remember all of that. So I think that's the most complicated part. But as far as the data that they're just getting a simple spreadsheet with an address, the site number, the size of the tree, the species of the tree, and then if it's a removal, a tag number where we actually physically put a tag on the tree for the removal. And with the T&M pruning or like the emergent work, that can be a little more complicated because there's not a tag on it, and maybe just like anything, regardless of where you're pulling the data from, having it being able to convey exactly what you want, how you want that tree pruned, et cetera, for that emergent work can be, sometimes challenging. But in general, no, they seem to like it just because it's consistent. The information that we're giving them is consistent all the time.
Yeah. Are you doing trainings with the contractors, or how are you getting them up to speed?
So for that was just like would be handled during like a kickoff meeting. So, there's like go through the bid process, whoever wins the bid after, goes through council and everything, all the paperwork signed, then you do a pre-contract or, kickoff meeting where you sit down, talk to them, go through the contract, kind of, and then lay out the, actual reasonable expectations of what it is that we need them to do, how we're going to give them the information, and kind of answer any questions that they would have.
Okay. This might be more of a question. I see, Lee, you're on the call here. There was a question in the Q&A. Is the software available only for the US or any country in the world? Can it be translated to other languages? So Joe was sharing Davy Treekeeper. He also mentioned Planet Geo has Tree Plotter. So there's a couple of different options out there. There's probably some others that I'm not thinking of right now. So I believe that they are available outside the US, but unless you know, Joe, we'll have to rely on our friends to comment on that.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Joe, this is Morgan put a comment in here about could have the link available. This would be great to show kids and adults that are interested in this career. So that was probably more just a comment. And yes, we will be sharing this afterwards. But I did kind of note in my head, and this is maybe a little far afield from what we're talking about here, is the amount of time that an urban forester's job is really spent behind the computer and maybe not out in the field doing the work, the inspection work or whatever it might be. So I guess maybe that's just a general comment as people are thinking about this work, and you might share a little bit of how this has helped you be more efficient in your work behind the computer. Maybe it helps you get in the field more, or have you seen any sort of time savings that has helped in the office or again out in the field?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good comment, and I'm glad you keyed in on that. And I've talked to several people about that, probably even Lee or Steve Lane before. And it's, we have these tools available that absolutely save a ton of time and streamline everything. Absolutely. It just keeps you organized. The problem is most of us didn't get into this career to be behind a computer or to be playing with a tablet all day. Now, in my opinion, I think having the tablet and that technology is just a more modern version of writing, scribbling stuff down on a piece of paper. But it's always going to be there no matter what. But it allows us to be in the field with the technology, but still be with the trees or with the crew. So that's why I think it's important. And the reason I like to talk about do presentations like this and originally made the video in the first place is really to kind of highlight, and maybe this video didn't do a great job of doing that, but to highlight how easy this really is. It's really not that difficult once you do it, and you can set it up however you want. This was just an example of how we did it in Park Ridge, but once you come up with your own system and just implement it and stay consistent, it saves a ton of time, and most importantly, just keeps you organized.
Thanks, Joe. Well, we're approaching.
Yeah, sorry, I know you want to jump into the CU
okay.
thing, but the person who made the comment about sharing this video, if you can, also share with them the Illinois Arborists Association video about careers in arboriculture, which I always like to plug that whenever I have the opportunity, because it's a really good video for people coming into the industry.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yes, we're approaching the top of the hour. Carla has put the link in the chat. It's just up there a few from the bottom. So if you're seeking ISA CEUs, please fill that out. You will put in your name, email, and your CEU, or sorry, your arborist number. Make sure it's accurate because that's how we make sure that we get the correct information into the system for you. So with that, we will wrap this learning series. Next month, it's all going to be about community engagement. We have a Career Compass webinar next month about navigating your career. Good. We just transitioned to that too, Joe, talking about how we grow in urban forestry and get more people interested in this work. So hope to see you next month. With that, we'll say goodbye and thank you for joining us. Bye, everybody.